Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is the newspaper review segment of the day break, and as is customary, I have a copy of the Daily Trust with me. Quite a couple of interesting stories on the front page of the Daily Trust. Lead story there says military seeks extradition as Finland jails Ekpa. And that story is on page 4, talking about IPOB. Also, Palestinians welcome ICC's arrest warrant for Netanyahu. Page 3 has that story. Other stories there say girl 13 beats classmate to death in Kogi. Also, Kano governor reunites 76 freed teenagers with families. ACF suspends chairman Usman over unauthorized statement. Top of the page. Reps reject 6-year single term for presidents and governors. Check details of that on page 11. And also, grid collapse, NEC raises committee on national electrification. And also, ex-Fedeco scribe Ahmed Kurfi buried in Katsina. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust as we move quickly to the Punch newspaper. Punch newspaper lead story there says anti-tinubu comments. ACF suspends chairman as Afenifere others back president. Tinubu inherited Buhari's economic policies. Ohaneze, Middle Belt, others reply ACF. Serial grid collapse, NEC panel to boost power generation in states. Lagos 3 trillion naira 2025 budget prioritizes infrastructure, tourism. This is on page 6. It's interesting to see a state like Lagos having a 3 trillion naira budget. I mean, just in 2014 we saw Nigeria's budget, somewhere around 4 trillion. So, well, interesting times we're in Nigeria. Visiting US-based Nigerian bought 9 drugs before death, according to police. Winners get 77 million in Zenith Bank Tech Fair. All the stories are there on the Punch newspaper, but we'll now go to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper, big story there says dwindling sports fortunes. Grassroots neglect, mediocrity strip Nigeria of youthful population edge. And also other stories on the Guardian newspapers say Senate reviews law okays life imprisonment for drug traffickers. And these are some of the stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. We now have joining us in the studio this morning to provide perspective and analysis on some of the stories. We have the editor of 21st Century Chronicle, no other person than Nuruddin Abdullah. Editor, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Good morning.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm compelled to start with so many interesting stories, but let's start with the ACF suspension of his chairman over unauthorized statements. Now, I know that usually the reverse would be the case when you see a spokesperson of an organization release an unauthorized statement. You then see the chairman remove the spokesperson. But what's peculiar about this situation?
Okay, you see, I think the Pan-Northern group had to take that decision because ACF is apolitical. It is not partisan. It is not like the Arewa Elders Forum, the Ango Abdullahi, at that time Hakim Baba Ahmed, group. Yeah, exactly. ACF comprises of all, can I say retired? Bureaucrats, diplomats, businessmen, and what have you. So, I think the history of the organization, it has never aligned with a particular candidate or political party.
Indeed.
Excuse me. You understand? So that has been the. So I don't know. Usman, the chairman. I think he's a senior lawyer. I think he's an SN. Maybe he was carried away by what is happening around him and what have you. But actually, his statements has cast a very bad light, the organization in a bad light, because it's apolitical. It has been an apolitical organization. It doesn't take a political side, you understand? But like the other newspapers are saying, what guarantee do you have if you have a northern candidate? You have a northern candidate. We had a northern president for 8 years, where you cannot travel from Abuja to Kaduna. We have a northern president for 8 years. And the road that link almost all the northwestern states and the gateway to the northeastern states, the Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, has remained uncompleted, just about 60% completed. For 8 years of a northern president. The emergence of ungoverned spaces in Birnungwari, don't even talk about Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, and what have you. The northern president came from Katsina. Go to Shemi. I think there are places that in broad daylight, bandit, miscreants will mount roadblock, and everybody has to stop.
Unperturbed.
For 8 years that we had a northern president, we had a scam called Baroport. For 8 years that we had another president, Mandela remained a mirage. For the 8 years we had another president, the oil exploration in Gombe, Bauchi axis remains another scam. So I don't know what Mr. Usman's northern patriotism. I don't think it's a mistake if we even toe that line. Let's pick a Nigerian. If we can borrow a white man or what have you to come and govern us, to ensure that here the prices of food are down, security, you can go to farm, you can send your kids to school without the fear of being abducted and what have you. Let it be, please.
You think that it has gotten to that point,
parochial stuff.
You think it has gotten to that? It has gotten to that point, editor.
Go and ask a typical Nigerian, what actually do we want? Nigerians' demands are not much. Majority of us live in the rural areas, even though now they have been forced out by the actions of the bandits and other non-state actors, you understand? Go to a typical village, establish a PhD for them. Gather some villages, establish a primary or secondary school. We are not saying that you should do the road that you are building in Abuja. Get a local road where the farm, a pickup can pick their produce and take it to the next available market.
They are not asking for too much.
And they can go to, their children can go to school, they can go to farm, they can go to their markets. What else? If you like, you can do whatever you want. The demands,
not much, but yet you still can't get it.
Even going to the farm, it's a problem. Go to Niger, go to Kaduna, go to even Sokoto. People have been forced out of those places.
Editor, this is making me want to ask this question. Don't you think it's like a double jeopardy for these Nigerians who are staying in these spaces, unfortunately, that are being eroded by bandits? It's one thing that, you cannot afford to stay in the big cities because of the cost of living and survival there, and you also cannot afford to stay, in your local towns and villages because of the activities of bandits. So what's the hope for them?
Look at the recurring dismal around this peculiar issue. They have kids of school-going age. You live in Shiroro, Mashegu, or that axis, or the Birnungwari axis, and you have been forced out of your locality. You have to move with your kids. By the time you come to, let's say, Kaduna, or you are living in one market square. Yes, because we don't have IDP establishments. Anything outside Yobe and Borno in northern Nigeria. So they live in a marketplace or as primary or secondary school in an open place. With the hope, yes, the military will do something, I will go back to our village. That displacement has equally displaced the education of their children. That's just one. not to talk the farming activities. And unfortunately, the leaders at all levels believe that things are okay. You saw what is happening. I saw that a lady who spoke against this thing, was arrested, secretly tried, and thrown into jail. And now she was forced to equally apologize for saying the obvious. Are there no IDPs in Sokoto metropolis? Are these things not happening? When there is displacement, there is hunger, there is abject poverty. When people who are not even displaced cannot have a decent meal, what of somebody who has been displaced, totally displaced? Maybe their villages have been burned down, as we saw a case the first day. Their silos where they store foods has been destroyed and evacuated.
Indeed.
And those people will equally move to a nearby town, what have you, and stay in an open market or primary school. Those who are even working, majority of ministers here, their staff come to work twice. I met a colleague, he was one of the information ministers, agencies. He comes to work once in a week, understand? Not to talk of people who are displaced. So you can see the vicious cycle.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, governors, I normally say this, are getting so much money. But this thing doesn't trickle to the electorate. That particular state, the governor awards all manner of contracts in 2-digit billions. You wasn't not that guy that was repairing boreholes, right? About 1 something billion, you understand? So we wonder. So, and unfortunately, what is happening again, they are equally muzzling, narrowing the civic space. Whereby as citizens, you can't even hear your view, particularly in those areas. They'll just come, and unfortunately, the police. That's even the most surprising of it.
Well, let's hold off on the police, editor, because of time, because I need you to comment on another issue, and that's the lead story of the Daily Trust, if the director can pull that up for us to see. What was your immediate reaction to the headline on the development that Simon Ekpa, the known separatist, had been arrested, according to the government, of course?
But that's not the first time that the man in Finland has been arrested, particularly by the Finnish authorities.
So what do you make of these developments?
I think there is a development now. Based on the story, in August, I think a Finnish minister, or the PM, was here. And there are some discussions. So I think what Nigeria needs to do is to actually approach this thing in a very strong diplomatic, because it's a diplomatic thing. IPOP has lot of, they have so much money, particularly in the diaspora. You remember Nnamdi Kanu, there was a time he paid almost $1 million to a lobbying company in Washington, D.C. Recently, one of the chief of staff, designated chief of staff in the U.S. of White House, has at the time worked for IPOP as a lobbyist, and she received nearly $100,000. So the military authorities should know this, or the Nigerian authorities should know this, and approach the team professionally, so that they should not bungle this opportunity. They should not bungle it. And back here, they should equally get their acts together. The Attorney General should look at the charges that they will slam on this guy when he's finally here. We don't want to have a repeat of Nnamdi Kanu. He is in detention for almost 3 years now, but the killings continues. They sit at home, a self-inflicted policy by IPOP. Majority of the Igbos are traders, and you are saying they should not open their on Monday for that matter. Their children, some of them cannot even sit for jam, WAEC, or what have you. This is a self-inflicted injury on the southeast. So it's a good development. But let me say it is. Secession agitation is a democratic right. provided it is non-violent. Yeah, we don't have a case for referendum here, but they are not violating any law if they decide to be Biafra or Dudua or Ariwa or whatever, provided it is not violent. They have lawmakers at the National Assembly. A constitutional review is taking place. Let them insert a referendum as part of our governance system, where Biafra, for instance, agitators can go to the National Assembly, talk to their lawmakers, and the lawmakers can reach out to other lawmakers from other parts. Yes, we want this part of the country to be carved out. In fact, there are too many. You understand? Provided it is not violent. But for the military, it's not enough to speak on the pages of newspapers. The Attorney General, let them know what they are doing with Nnamdi Kanu. He is there, and from one legal gymnastic to another. And the bloodshed continues. The economy of the South is being ruined almost on a daily basis. Their educational system is collapsing, and the governors are helpless. So the Attorney General should start looking at what he will do with the charges. The foreign ministry, the military, they should do the diplomatic back channel to ensure that he's finally here.
Well, Editor, thank you so much for that comment. I mean, I was going to ask you all the questions, but unfortunately the director is saying that time is no longer on our side and we have to wrap up the program at this point. Nuruddin Abdullah, the editor at the 21st Century Chronicle, it's always a pleasure, always a pleasure to have you join the program on Friday to do an analysis and, of course, share perspectives on the developments. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Nice to have me, thank you.
And, of course, to you all Nigerians, thank you so much for being a part of the program from the start at 8 a.m. up until this point. If you missed any part of the program, you can simply follow us across all of our social platforms to catch up, and also join our live stream on YouTube and Facebook for more news programs and documentaries. My name is Sagir Ibrahim. Up next is 360 Sports. Do have a good weekend.